So in this video, what we're going to do is basically go based off this question. Because we've already seen kind of how completing the square works, and you can see that it can get really complicated, especially if you had problems like this. So can we find the vertex for this general form using an easier method, okay, than completing the square? The answer is yes, you can. And actually, you may have seen this formula before. And the way that we basically find the vertex is the h value is equal to x equals negative b over 2a. Okay. The way that we find the k value is just basically plug in x into the original. Now this formula, the way that you do it is you basically just complete the square of of this guy, and this is where this formula kind of pops up. Okay. Now what about x-intercepts? Because x-intercepts were easy to solve when you had something like this. X-intercepts were really easy to solve. Yeah, it may not be nice, but is there another way that you can find the x-intercepts using this guy? So how can we do that? So what about x-intercepts? The answer is you can. And there's basically two ways. One of them is by factoring. So if the problem is factorable, you can do it. If it's not factorable, there is another way, and that's the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula comes back, and if you remember the quadratic formula, the formula to do that is going to be x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so that's basically the quadratic formula that all of us love. Okay, so what we're gonna do, let's come up with an example first, and then let's try to figure out the vertex and also find the intercepts. So find vertex and x-intercepts. Okay, so here's my function, x squared plus 4x plus 3. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is find the vertex. So clearly we don't want to complete the square. We already did it, and let's say that's not the method that you want to do. So one of the things that we can do is find the vertex. So remember, in order to find the vertex, we need to figure out what h is. H is basically x, which is going to be negative b over 2a. Now our b term in this case is very easy because it's just a thing in front of the x, which is going to be this 4. So you have a negative there, and then you have a 4 divided by 2a. A in this case is going to be a 1. So it's going to be negative 4 divided by 2, which gives me negative 2. So that is our h. What about our k? Well, k is plugging in back into the original. Okay, so I'm going to plug it back into the original, negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2 plus 3. So I'm going to put this in my calculator, negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2, and then plus 3. That's just going to give me negative 1. So that tells me that my vertex is going to be negative 2 comma negative 1. Okay, so we didn't have to complete the square. We can just use these formulas and they will give it to us. So this h and this k. The x-intercepts. So x-intercepts, remember y equals 0. So you have 0 is equal to x squared plus 4x plus 3. Okay, now can this be factored? Yes, it can. This can be factored as x plus 3, x plus 1. Okay, so here you're going to get x equals negative 3 and x equals negative 1. So that means that my x-intercepts are going to be negative 3 comma 0 and then negative 1 comma 0. Here are my x-intercepts. Alternatively, if your factoring skills are not that great, you can always use the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So here our b value is just 4, so it's negative 4 plus or minus square root 4 squared minus 4a. A in this case is a 1. C is this last number, which is going to be this 3, divided by 2a. So 2 times 1. So this is negative 4 plus or minus square root 16 minus 12 divided by 2. Okay, so 16 minus 12, that's just going to give me 4 divided by 2. And negative 4 plus or minus 2 over 2. Okay, now what does this plus or minus mean? That means that there's two solutions. You have one that's negative 4 plus 2 over 2. And then you also have a negative 4 minus 2 over 2. Okay, so notice here what you're going to get is a negative 2 over 2, which is going to give me negative 1. And here you're going to get negative 6 over 2, which is going to give me negative 3. So it gives you exactly the same answers as these guys. Okay, so just a little bit more work. But remember that factoring isn't always going to work. Okay, but if it does work, it can simplify a lot of the steps really easily. Quadratic formula will always work, just a lot more algebra. Okay. All right, so using the quadratic formula actually is super easy to do, and also finding the vertex as well. Okay, so you can practice it as much as you can. A lot of it is just a lot of basic algebra. Now, I want to end this with finding minimums and maximums. So mins and max. So, and you've kind of already figured this out, that the minimum and maximum is the y value of the vertex. So the y value of the vertex, which is basically the k value, is the minimum or the maximum. Okay, now how do you know if you have a minimum or a maximum? Well, if you have a happy parabola, remember you're going to have a minimum. If you have a sad parabola, you're going to have a maximum. So let's think about this example. If you have f of x is equal to x squared plus 4x, find the min or max. Okay, so in order to find the min or max, we need to find the y value. But we can't find the y value because we don't know what the x value is. So the way that we do it to find the min or max is we basically use this x equals negative b over 2a, which is going to give me my h value. And then after I figure that out, I can plug it back into my k value. So b, in this case, is a 4. There's a negative there. 2 times 1. It's going to give me negative 4 over 2. That gives me negative 2. This is not the answer, because now, remember, the minimum or the maximum is going to be the k value. So k in this case is going to be plugging it back in there. Negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2. Okay, so this is going to give me a positive 4. And this is going to give me a negative 8, which gives me a negative 4. Now, what is this negative 4? Is this negative 4 going to be a maximum or a minimum? Well, this is a happy parabola. If it's a happy parabola, that means you're going to have a minimum. So this guy is a minimum. Okay, and what we're going to do in the next video is we're going to do some word problems where you can actually see this in real life.